Hey there everyone, Dr. Beth Westy here, and I wanted to pop on and talk about the trauma response. If you've been through trauma as a traumatic event, anything that's really, really stressful in your life, and the effect it can have on your system. I'm going to go through and talk about the process that can happen in your body that all leads to you gaining more weight, storing more fat, everything else. Now, if you are curious, like, well, what does this mean exactly? Or like, how is my body doing this? I want to see it. I want to see where I'm at, because sometimes it's hard to figure out where you're at. When you are feeling exhausted, when you have a hard time working out, when you're trying to eat healthy, but you don't see anything changing from that, it can be so frustrating to feel like, well, I feel like I'm doing stuff, but I'm just like playing Russian roulette with my supplements. I'm just throwing stuff up against the wall to see what sticks. And I have no idea if what I'm doing is actually helpful or not. I don't know where to start. Dutch test, which I'll put a link right here if you guys have not gotten a Dutch test. It's absolutely incredible. The amount of information that is on here, what we learn about your body, what we learn about your system, what we learn about how your body processes everything. So this is a sample of one of the many pages you get in your Dutch report talking about how your system processes hormones. And one of the things about this is that when I look at some of these levels, I can tell how long your system's been putting up with something by how unbalanced things are, right? By how unbalanced they are. And that's something that women get frustrated with. They're like, oh, I feel like this should have turned around by now. And I'm like, well, okay, but if your system keeps getting fatigued, it literally can't. You can't make it do something that it doesn't have the fuel to do. You can't drive a car if the gas tank is empty, right? And that's where we're at. And it can be from traumatic events. It can be from big stressful times in our life. Now, sometimes our bodies are under stress for a long period of time. And that has a wearing effect on your system, right? But and that's another conversation, because that's still very damaging on the body. But trauma is not something that people talk about for women very often. Yes, no one talks about this. You're absolutely right, Katie. No one talks about this. Traumas that you're going through. Did you have a death in the family? Did you lose somebody that was close to you? Was that a traumatic experience? Did you have a traumatic relationship? The amount of, abuse that goes unreported, addressed in women is unbelievable, right? And for those of you that know my story, that have listened to my podcasts, I do share a little bit about my own personal history with this and things that I have struggled with my health related to history of trauma and domestic violence, and the struggles that I still have, even with my health sometimes today, right? And the hard thing too with trauma, with women that have been through trauma, is that it's really difficult to trust your mind and your body connection. So this is why getting something like a Dutch test is so helpful, because it's right here. Like, you can't make it up. You didn't fake these numbers. It's not in your head. It's right here that there's something that's off in your system. That's the power of getting something like this to really see. And again, for women that have been through trauma, it can be hard to learn to trust our body's reaction and response again, because we have been, to get through trauma, sometimes we end up going in a survival mode, and that means shutting off, shutting down our own awareness to how our body's working and functioning. And when we do notice something, if we do ask for help on it, a lot of the time, like going in and saying, this is off with my system, you're treated the same way as if, it's in your head. Oh, there's nothing wrong. Your thyroid levels are normal, so I don't know why you'd be so tired and gaining weight. Right? How many women have had that where you go in and get your thyroid tested again and again and again, and you're like, yeah, I'm exhausted, right? And you've been under stress and you've had trauma in your past. And how many times do they ask about that? Anybody? Right? It's hard, and these are the pieces. This is why I do this. Where I feel it's so important for women to understand that this is not, something to be skipped over. And if you feel like this applies to you, if you feel like this applies to somebody, take note of all these things, and that the reaction and response in your system, it's real. The reaction and response in your body is not, made up. It is happening. And you just might be blocking it, being aware of it, because again, you've been in survival mode, survival mode, right? But when you get to a place where like, I got to take care of this, I got to work on this, I got to work on my meat suit that I'm living in so that you can actually feel better, function better, right? From the inside out. These are the things to address here. So these are things that I work with women on. These are not easy things to do, right? These are not easy things to do, and they can be hard and uncomfortable, but I'm always amazed at the women that I work with so often have trauma in their histories, have trauma in their background. And it's because having trauma interrupts your hormones. So you end up with a hormonal issue, and women are like, yeah, my hormones, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, okay, we start talking about things. And then sometimes I'm like, gosh, like this is a really strong reaction that you're having in your system. You know, oftentimes women with trauma, and they'll be like, yep, yeah, I have trauma in my history. Yep, okay, yeah, that can set these things off. So, but knowing that and being aware of that, no one is immune to the hard parts of life. Janet, yes, Janet. Oh, Janet is like one of my favorite people in the world. Hi, Janet. I have done podcasts with Janet. So the Female Health Solution podcast, search my podcast for podcast with her. She's an incredible resource, puts out some amazing information. If you guys are not following her, give her a follow right now. Seriously. But these are the things again, and it can have a physical response. So oftentimes what happens is you're like, okay, my hormones are definitely off, right? So you're like, I want to get this taken care of. But again, if you're not recognizing the whole, right? It's parts of the whole. Everything is connected. Your health is cumulative. So make sure that you're really doing some of the work here to get this taken care of. Oftentimes I'll recommend women see a therapist or a counselor or something at the same time that they're going through my program, because it goes hand in hand and they get the best results inside and out. You need a team of people to lead you through these things. It just helps you. It helps you along the way, right? It does. So trauma, when you have had trauma in your past, and it doesn't matter how far back it goes, right? Your body, your system, our bodies are amazing. So there's these like neural pathways that are already set off, whereas if it gets triggered, boom, there it goes. Cascade reaction. Then it sets off that stress response. Just having an immediate stress response in your body. Yep. Fat storage gets triggered from having a stress response here. Yes. Your heart rate can increase, your respiratory rate decreases, your digestive system changes. It can change the microbiome of your gut. What? Yes. Slows tissue healing. Changes collagen. Decreases collagen in your skin. What? Yeah. These are the general things, right? Now, what about the cortisol? What about cortisol? Yeah, adrenaline, cortisol, you'll have these immediate, like, harsh responses, right? Now, again, we've talked about cortisol being high and cortisol being low, and it feels the same in your body, right? But what does that ultimately cause? Fat storage, right? Yeah, we're so good at it, right? I made it like a balloon, a cloud, right? Because fat cells, right? They just get, like, bigger and bigger. You don't get more. They just get bigger and they get bigger. Look, that's nucleus, right? Fat tissue, right? These are part of the cell. We don't want to talk about cells. I'll keep going. Sorry. I get excited talking about cells, but having that cortisol response. Now this can be, it's either, again, it doesn't matter if it's too high or too low. It will feel the same. And again, overall effect will make your body store more fat. Yes. Hormone imbalance. Hormone imbalance. What does this mean? It's going to throw off your cycle. It can make you have more hot flashes. It can cause your system, as the fat cells grow, it causes your system to have more estrogens and produce more estrogens, making you more estrogen dominant, throwing everything else off more. What? Yes. I feel like my screen just got darker. Maybe it's just my phone. I don't know. Anyway, so there's that. Muscle tissue decrease, because that trauma response and how your system reacts here, muscle tissue decreases. What happens when muscle tissue decreases? Your body will be triggered for even more fat storage. This seems like it's a lot of fat storage. Yes, it can be. It can be. Now, this also doesn't mean that you're going to be like eating a ton. You might not feel hungry. You might not feel like, I don't really get hungry that often. I just eat because I know I need to eat, or my blood sugar, or blah, 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 or whatever. but you're not like, you don't get to a point ever during the day where you're like, God, I'm hungry, I need to eat. Ooh. That just doesn't happen, right? Because that is meaning that like you don't have enough muscle tissue to support, you're not having your metabolism go, and your body's just in fat storage. And then of course, overall, with the mental health piece of it, and again, I am not a mental health expert. Janet is, she's amazing. But these are things where overall decreasing your mental health also will lead to more fat storage in your body, right? Because it's harder to get out of that hole, right? It's all connected. And that's the big piece. And I know I talk a lot about how your body works and functions, how the female body works and functions. But if you are not addressing all these pieces of the puzzle, you're not going to see the picture and really figure out the map that you need to follow for yourself. And this can shift and change. And as you go through and walk this journey, again, it's sometimes messy. It's not fun. But you get to new levels of yourself that are really, really important. And again, I address this because this week alone, I've had so many conversations with women that are so strong, resilient, smart, determined, right? They're successful, moms that have great relationships, yet they have trauma in their past that is still affecting their health. And those things matter. And these are the things that we have to walk through and address. These are the things that we have to talk about. So again, Dutch test, and again, the link is right there in the comments if you have not gotten a Dutch test, if you want to know more about this. And then of course, this is just the beginning. This is just the first piece of this puzzle, walking through it. I talked to you about what your Dutch test is. I give you a starting protocol. And then again, the best way to go through it from there is to really start on a program to help keep guiding you through the shifts and changes that your body has. That's how you're going to be successful moving forward continuously. Yes. Annette, thank you. Annette, you're so amazing. Had it happen this week. Gut is terrible today. Yes, right? Being taught to be stoic and just bottled up trauma and transferred it on a cellular level. Yeah. Yep. Because that's the other thing too. A lot of times, like having that trauma response, our response is a survival response. So even if there's traumatic things that are happening currently, you might not even be responding to them in a way you want to respond to them, because it's an automatic reflex to hold tight, be strong, whatever. And how is that affecting your system still today based on other things? It's repeating the same patterns, leading you down the same paths and not letting you move forward. So it's a matter of doing both. If you haven't done the mental health piece of it, you have to walk that journey. And at the same time, I do encourage you to walk the journey of going through shifting and changing your own physiology, because you can. You can. I work with women through this all the time. I have, women in every single group that I do going through this and doing the work. And again, it's not fun, but it is so rewarding to see and feel your physical body get healthier, get stronger, and have these benefits that you didn't have before. So, kind of a heavier topic to talk about, but I think is really, really, really important. And again, for those of you that know my story, my history, everything else, that this is something that's really important to me personally. So this is why I talk about it. Other resources I have for you beside my podcast and my YouTube channel, which is called Dr. Beth Westy. I have my book, The Female Fat Solution and Female Menopause Solution. These are on Amazon. These are available for you as resources just to get a hold of, so you know how to keep moving forward. So you know how to, nutrition to match your hormones and cycle, and get some tools in there. Get some tools to help you keep moving forward. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Please let me know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, I will see you later.